Sometimes while playing a game, I think about how much harder it would be to play while drunk. I threw up a little just thinking about it. So this week I've been playing a pretty new little indie game called Rogue Glitch. It was actually recommended to me by a viewer, so thanks for pointing this one out to me. Rogue Glitch is a procedurally generated side-ish, arena shooter-ish scroller type thing. It's also completely free on Steam for the single-player version, with the multiplayer being about $5 American, so if you have the time and $5, you might want to give it a look.
Are you ready to fight alongside your colonel and give your $5 to the
Numbskull Games?
if it comes to that?
Essentially, this game's progression revolves around navigating a board game-style map square by square, and each time you enter an unexplored square, you have to enter the room and clear it out before you can move on. This is broken up by treasure rooms, shops, and the occasional boss battle, as well as plenty of secrets and surprises. There's some elements that will change at random room to room as well. For example, enemies will be stronger or weaker, there may be more or less of them. Sometimes a second wave of enemies will spawn in after you clear the room, and occasionally there will be environmental hazards like poisonous fog or random explosions. Most powers also have a synergy stat, for example health, electricity, explosives, etc., and picking up 3 items with matching synergies will give you a much stronger buff or weapon. For example, pick up 3 electric items and you gain the ability to randomly fire a powerful plasma ball that deals damage to anything in the way. There's also a story, kind of, I think. Okay, well, essentially after you defeat the first boss, you're teleported to a weird little prison room where a giant floating head drops some cryptic messages about glitches in the simulation before smashing you into the floor for no readily apparent reason. So from here, it just becomes a game of reaching that floating head guy by defeating an increasing number of bosses, 1 on your first run through, 2 on your second, etc. This is where we run into what I like to call the spelunky problem. See, the areas and bosses are always going to be in the same order, which means even though the room order and enemy and power placement are going to be different, you'll have more or less the same stages in the same order to progress through each time you die and have to restart. For most roguelike fans, that won't really be a problem, but for me it just causes me to burn out faster than if things were fully randomized. Another fun element is that as you progress, you'll unlock new characters, all of which have their own special skills and can be leveled up individually to increase their survivability, but the only one worth a shit is the spider because it can stick to walls and gets an electric force field once he's leveled up, which means you can just stick to the wall or platform near an enemy where they can't hit you and just let the force field take care of them. Also, I swear if this results in the spider being nerfed, I will personally and publicly commit seppuku to atone for opening my big fat mouth. Unfortunately, the playable characters have to be leveled up individually, and you only get the items that you need to level up from bosses. But also, unfortunately, each boss only drops 2 or 3 of the items, and it gets pretty expensive to level up after a while, so you're kinda stuck focusing on just one character. Not that bothered me, since I was only going to play as the spider anyway. As for the controls, they're deceptively simple. Essentially, you just move and jump around, and attacking is triggered automatically when an enemy is in range. The only attacks you have any control over is the ability to slam down on enemies and whatever power you have equipped in your item slot. This means you really only have to focus on movement and evasion, which keeps the pace up and the action engaging, but it also means you'll sometimes be trying to focus on a specific enemy, but your character will refuse to attack them unless you make the proper sacrifices to the capricious gods of fate, and with the way some bosses are designed, you just gotta hope you've picked up the right stuff before you get to them, or you're going to have to get so close in order to trigger your attacks that their attacks become basically unavoidable. There's also an online multiplayer. Let's try it out. I paid $5 for this. So far, that's been my experience with the multiplayer. Either there's no one around or they're not interested in playing with me, but don't worry, my entire life up to now has been designed specifically to get me used to that sort of thing. Where was I? I guess I could talk about the art when I can see it. Everything is made of bright neon geometrical shapes, so if you're colorblind or suffer from epilepsy, this is not going to be a good game for you. I don't have any problem with either of those things, and this cyberpunk shoot still gave me a headache 3 bosses in. If I'm honest, I'm not usually someone who plays roguelikes, because I like to feel like I'm progressing through a world rather than just getting increasingly sort of alright at navigating the same IKEA showroom over and over, but Rogue Glitch manages to keep things interesting by keeping each run like an ideal conversation at the workplace, short, fast, and keeping you motivated to get to the end so that you can finally kill the boss. Actually, because of the random layout of each map, sometimes the first room you encounter will be the boss room, and then it's just a matter of deciding if you fought them enough times to be able to beat it at base level, or if you want to take the risk and explore for more powers and buff items. Overall, I think this is a solid experience, but, and if you ever tell anyone I told you this, I will hunt you down and bury you somewhere no one will ever find you. I think this game will be much more fun in multiplayer. Now, usually I would consider an optional multiplayer mode the way most people would consider an optional dead seagull on a banana sundae.
Bleeding seabird, bleeding flavor.
And also usually, I would find a multiplayer mode that by default has no one in it to be a sign from on high that I'm finally allowed to smile again without insincerity, but in this one specific instance, I think getting a friend on board to play with you might be a great improvement. The frantic pace and ridiculous powers lend themselves well to a frenetic enter a room and don't stop screaming until everything is dead kind of party that could be exactly what you need to liven up a particularly boring first date or kill some time while the FBI negotiates your release from the nice men with the rifles. Actually, that's really what this game is in a nutshell, a good time killer. It's a great lunch break game to pop into when you just need to relax for a few minutes and do something mindless, since you can fit a few bosses and probably more than a few deaths into a decent half-hour run. Overall, I recommend Rogue Glitch. It's not exactly for me, since I'm not really into roguelikes, but I still liked it well enough to keep playing and trying to progress. Like I said before, the single-player version's completely free on Steam, so go check it out. If you like it, come back here and let me know what you liked about it, and if you didn't like it, come back here and let me know what an idiot I was for recommending it to you. Anyway, thanks for stopping by. I'll see you next time.